But when you hear this, it doesn't matter what it's called. Void and of no legal force. That's what matters. So, let's go back to Virginia and Jefferson's letter to John Taylor. In what amounts to a Vince Lombardian pep talk, before Taylor delivers the Virginia resolve to that state's House of Delegates meeting to convene in a mere 6 days, here is what Jefferson wrote. And this one we can quote directly. Quote, "For the present, I should be for resolving the alien and sedition laws to be against the Constitution and merely void, and for addressing the other states to obtain similar declarations. And I would not do anything at this moment which should commit us further, but reserve ourselves to shape our future measures or no measures by the events which may happen. It is a singular phenomenon that while our state governments are the very best in the world, without exception or comparison, our general government has, in the rapid course of 9 or 10 years, become more arbitrary and has swallowed more of the public liberty than even that of England. I enclose you a column cut out of a London paper, to show you that the English, though charmed without making enemies with their enemies, yet blush and weep over our sedition law." End quote. So the Alien and Sedition Acts were so wicked, even in the formerly despotic England, the English were embarrassed to have passed them. That's how bad they were. The Virginia House of Delegates convenes in the first week of December 1798, and on Thursday, 13 December, John Taylor of Caroline's moment has arrived. The House resolved itself into what's called a Committee of the Whole, and then, after hearing Taylor's resolves, which he read, he and Madison's Virginia resolves, mostly the work of Madison, Taylor had a hand in this, Taylor began to flesh out his case. Now, it would be unfair of me to the brilliance of this speech, it really would, to try and represent it in but a few quotations in a little bit of time I have left. I encourage all of you to get a book. Go to Amazon, you can find a used copy. It's no longer in print, but you can find a used copy of the Virginia Report of 1799 and 1800. It has all of this in it. All the floor debates, everything that was said for nullification and interposition, everything that was said against it. So you can read both sides of the argument and make your own conclusions. The Virginia Report of 1798, 1799. Step-by-step process here. So, Taylor builds an airtight case, what I think is an airtight case, for every state's legislature, including North Carolina's, regardless of who your United States Senator is today, to nullify or interpose against unconstitutional acts. As we heard earlier, this is, as Diane said, this is a duty. It's not an option. If you take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, when somebody micturates on it, you have a duty. And if you don't do it, then you're in on it. You're derelict. So members of Congress go, "Oh, I tried." Well, that's not good enough. Taylor begins by saying that his appearance at this meeting is not a happy one. He's not happy to be there, but an awful occasion, and that no one ever wanted to see an occasion like this occur, but that time had come, and thus they must act. He begins by laying out his case. Quote, this is just brilliant. I want you to listen to this, and I will make these remarks available in text form so you can share them with friends and family and yourselves, because the argument is just pure dead. As the Scots will say, pure dead brilliant. Quote, "There are two subjects I shall contemplate by the resolutions I have laid before you. One, the constitutionality of the laws referred to in the resolutions, and two, their correspondence with human rights, natural and civil." Taylor then lays out the history of how the alien friends have been treated, or how alien friends have been treated under English common law, which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, unless I missed it, we still live under common law. Our municipal law is our common law. The laws that regulate traffic lights, for example, are municipal laws. They are totally separate and apart from the kind of law that the Constitution contemplates. which is why you should question any member of Congress if they ever say they have anything to do with traffic. Well, why? Oh, with lights or roads, why should you? You have nothing to do with this. This is a municipal issue. So English common law is still with us today. It undergirds all of our legal traditions, including some of the most precious ones, like the writ of habeas corpus. This is English common law. We still have, well, we had it until the NDAA, so think about that. So Taylor lays out the history of what I just told you about English common law and of how common law states would deal with what we're now going to call for the rest of this talk, alien friends, immigrants that we invite into our country, which you as the state of North Carolina are free to do. General government cannot stop you unless we are at war and they declare it. Understand this. Suppose, gentlemen, and back to Taylor, suppose, gentlemen, that government, which is never an enemy to power, should strengthen its hand by corruption, by patronage, by standing armies, by a system of fears. Now, I'm not saying that our government had done so, but in case a government should do so, now suppose that such a case had occurred, that this body of immigrants had made their way into our midst, that we welcomed them and even cared for them, thus made them solely dependent on our government. Would it be a proper instrument to place in the hands of the executive, the president, if you will, to have control over these actions toward aliens? The men in this body know all too well that executive power is the greatest enemy to our cherished Republican principles. If you agree with that and follow my reasoning, would any man in this body assert that to strengthen executive power in this way, wholly unforeseen by those who formed the Constitution, so as to extend beyond their intentions, could be agreeable to the Constitution? Are not those cherished Republican principles the great end of our Constitution? So, if you agree that it would be dangerous and against our Republican Constitution to grant the President of the United States the power to expel alien friends from the states, then you are concurrently granting him the power to impel them and turn them against you in service to him. If this so-called Alien Friends Act confers the power in the former, then it confers the power in the latter. If I have proved this law inimical to these principles, gentlemen, then I have attained the great and alarming end to which I aimed. Now, what did he just say? And if the general government and the President of the United States can claim power to expel an alien friend from your state, then he also has the concurrent power to tell him to stay in your state, and to tell him, basically, to wage economic war against you in your state. And since the Constitution conferred no such power on the executive, but the Naturalization Act of 1798 did, therefore, this is why the Virginians reacted so violently in the first instance to the Alien and Sedition Acts, because they were not going to be told that their friends, who were the French, by the by, that they had to kick the French out, and that Adams had no authority to do so, because again, to confer that power on him, that he could kick them out, meant that he could force you to take them